Hello everyone, welcome. Numbers seem to be picking up a little bit, 10 versus 12 so far. That looks like my recon plane. Let's have a closer look though. Yeah, it's my recon. That is a Halberstadt. A couple of planes over there. One of them is the Bristol F2 recon, and one of them is probably one of my guys descending on. That's how it looks. That plane above there's a couple of planes above, might go and check that out. One of them is probably an enemy. I have a feeling one of them is one of my guys chasing the Bristol, and the other one's coming from my side, and I'm on the enemy side, so it's probably a SPAD or something chasing him. If I can get there in time, I'll suss it out. Also got to keep track of them. That can be difficult. I've lost. There's one. There's the other. There's some fire. So we got two planes now chasing the Central Powers plane that shot the F2. This is all what I'm figuring out. Got to make sure. I was going to fly a SPAD today, but then I thought, nah, stop. I'm going to get a lot of enjoyment, I think, out of flying the DR. Those planes are all so far away, it's the trouble. Getting to them is difficult. Right, so we got one there next to the balloon. We got one over there lower down. And then my guy, I think that shot down the F2 is okay. I've refrained from shooting down the F2 because it's just an AI aircraft. I'm not really that interested in it. There's a balloon. There's a plane. It's so hard to keep track. It just dots in the distance. I'll only have a chance to get close enough to them if they start dogfighting. And by that time, hopefully, the fight hasn't finished by the time I get. There we go. They're coming closer into focus now, three of them. Let's see what they. There's a chance they're all enemies. There's a chance they're all my guys. I think they're a mix of both. And this guy over here, what's he up? He's going back east. What could that be? Where do I go there? I guess I'll go for the two. That's numerically a better idea. More chance of act. One of them's a D7. Lost that one. And the other one, I don't know. They don't seem to be really fighting. And that one that went over there, where the heck is it? Not good that I lost. There it is. Looks like a D7. I'm thinking maybe I've got two D7s and an Albatross. Could be totally wrong though. Got to keep track of them too. So there's one there. There's one. They're not shooting the balloon, and the other one I lost. That's disconcerting. He was right there, and now where is he? Let's get close. It's probably an albatross and a D7. They're going further in. Except for that one guy that just... These guys RTB, I don't... I think they're faster than me, so catching them might be a problem. They're both... Yeah, it's an albatross and a D7. What they're doing, I'm not sure. They're going away from the action. I'm inclined to get out of here now, I think. Whoa, turning to the left, always a challenge. Bit of a wild goose chase so far. A real life wild goose chase, like chasing a wild goose, would probably be extremely fun. Blew my plane, it's really guess that's just how it... "12 versus 7. Where are these fictitious 17 players? Where are my 12? Plane up there. That is pretty high. Could be a recon. plane there. Again, could be a recon. Up there, that's not a recon. Is it a flak burst though? It's just a flak burst. Lots of flak bursts, no planes. There's my balloon. My airfield is showing as under attack, but is it? Martin, bro, I'm going to put you in a timeout. I don't know what a timeout is, but I'm putting you in one. So there. It is hard not to become complacent when there's nothing going on. Like, you know, there's a lot of aircraft out, but you haven't actually seen anything. And it's hard not to just zone out and stop checking your SIGs and things like that. There we go, fighting, big fighting. My goal is to put pretty much all my effort, all my focus into staying alive. That might be unrealistic, but that's what I'm going to try and... But at the same time, that doesn't mean staying alive by avoiding combat. It means staying alive while being fully engaged in combat. So that, I mean, they're kind of impossible goals, both of them. But that's what those are the two ideals that I'm aiming for. Which calls for focus, real focus. And that's a D7. I'm at the top of the dogfight. What do we got there? What's this little one? Looks like an SE5. Looks like a DR1 shooting in an D7. something down. Something there. There we go. There we go. I really need to figure out an efficient way to shoot down plane without using so much ammo. You also don't know for sure unless you can visually see that you don't know, you have no confirmation that you've actually shot them down. They could be just faking out, they could be blacked out and going down in smoke, but they're not finished. And this is after you've put a lot of your precious ammo into them. You might not actually get credited for the kill. Someone else can pick them up at lower level, put a bullet into them and get the kill. Or they can just decide they can come to their consciousness and they can just make an emergency landing and you still don't get the kill. So just because you've put tons of bullets into a plane doesn't mean that you've killed. On the other hand, sometimes I've been shot seemingly by one bullet only, and I'm finished. So there's got to be a way. I think it's shooting from above, shooting directly into the cockpit from above. I think that's what it is. Is that a camel? And is that what is? And what is that? And what is? F plus some camel. 2 camels. I think I'll take them on. Let me just get this F2. He's got a good forward-facing armament though. And a good rear-facing armament. Damn it. Where are those 2 camels? Where's the F2? Damn it. Shit. Where are those 2 camels? Alright, he's finished. The blighter, he got me one. Should I RT? But the hardest part there was finding the camel and not colliding with these two others. And there was another camel and there was a Bristol F2. Plane's pretty shot up. I think I'll return. I think, yeah, there's Cappy there. I'm really close to it, so I may as well just return, get a new plane. As you can see, the sky is starting to fill up. Look at that. I think they're all central powers. As I wind him up for that last kill, like the last burst, I had my engine power at about 50%, reduced the engine torque, made it a lot easier to aim. Savage up. I think the engine still produces a lot of thrust even when it's at idle, so I think next time I go in for a landing I'll actually turn the engine. Two planes, excellent. Two planes, 25 points. FYI, this is the plane I'm flying here. It's pretty much unassailable. I mean, in a big furball anyone can shoot it, but the only thing it can't do is fly as fast as other planes. It's not very fast compared to them, but it's a pretty good dogfight. I have a nighttime collimator, which is a gun, 1,000 rounds of 50 litres of fuel. What is that contraption on the wing there, you ask? That is the airspeed indicator. Max speed's in cruise is about 165 kilometres an hour at the moment. Got to be on guard, there's enemies everywhere now. $50 players on the... Is that a shadow or a plane? I think it's a shadow of this plane. What have we got there? DR1. Let's see a plane going down in flames over there. Sumac. I think, yeah, I see someone spiraling down. Probably a camp. So we got a low-level dogfight over there. Someone up there, there's two up there. Bunch of them up there. Bunch of aircraft up. Since I'm closer to the lower side, I'll go and check out what's cooking down there. But I'll have to climb up again, that's the problem. Covered. Two planes. Balloons going down. Kind of looks like my side has control of this area for the time being. G'day Riley. Hello Froggy, how are you doing today? Fabulous, just like every other day. Thanks for asking. Tactically, what I'm doing is not so great. I'm climbing upwards into the combat zone. It's benign. It's empty for the moment. I think those parachutes from the balloon. It's a bunch of planes up. I think most of them are Albatross, DR1, D7. Further south. Further north. Those guys are in a formation over. Pretty tight looking formation, must be a squad. But there are planes over there. Those three there. They have a pretty neat formation going. Two planes behind me. Alright, now I've got a bit of altitude. I'm less vulnerable to attack from above at high speed, like from a SPAD or something. That is the biggest risk. The SPAD 13 is the biggest. 220 horsepower V8 engine. Relatively high speed. And it can equip with balloon guns, which are 11.7 millimeter, almost 50 caliber, with 400 rounds. They're pretty chunky rounds, so you get hit by balloon guns fired from a SPAD at high speed. It's not going to be so. Plane there. Let's have a look. Plane there. Oh shit, what is that? Just getting towards a target aircraft is tough because you can get jumped on the way there. That's probably a recon halberstadt. It looks like it. It has the MO of a recon halberstadt. I'm going to give it a. That one up there was either an SE5 or a DR1. I know they don't look anything alike, but that was my impression. Getting sweaty hand. So I'm basically directly above the centre of the kind of. Another plane up there. There's definitely planes everywhere. Just haven't quite intersected with one yet. I think there's about 50 players on the map. That's pretty hard. Two planes, three planes. Let's mosey on over to there and say hi. Whoa, guys, I just got almost a power failure. My air conditioner just partially. Prepare for the unexpected. The whole stream might end abruptly. I hope not. I really hope. We'll see. What is that? What is that? SPAD maybe? Or a D7? I think it could be a SPAD. It could be a DR. Could be a count. Let's ID him now. I'm getting a bit close. Try and get my altitude parity. He's getting shot at, or maybe it's another DR1. What are you doing up so? Ah! Fight down there. Is that a recon plane? What is that plane? It's getting shot at. Could it be a cap? Could it be the recon? Recon doesn't usually turn this early, but it looks like a Bristol F2. Do I want to shoot it down? Not so much. I want a giant fur. Yeah, it's a human-driven plane. It's probably a Bristol, in which case it's faster than I am. Unless he turns, there's not too much I can do. That's good though, it's a human-driven plane. Don't lose him. It's not very favourable though, trying to chase. My 165 cruise compared to his cruise, whatever that is probably closer to 200. Fast plane, the Bristol. It's probably like 185 or so. Same as a D7, roughly, I think. Flying over the enemy lines now, it's not such a good idea. I'm not going to chase that Bristol over the enemy line. Literally 51 players right now. I'm gonna get focus fatigue in a while, because I've been focusing so hard on checking my SIX and blah blah blah, and there's been basically nothing. When you get focus fatigue, that's when you get shot. That F2, I think whatever he was doing, he'd finished doing it and he was heading back to back. I would have chased him, except he's faster than I. Check that out. DR1 and a D7. Beautiful. What a formation. Hello, hello, hello. That's actually a Fowls D3. I'll go and spook them. What did I take off with? 50 litres of fuel. Been flying around for quite a while now. Alright, so I got those guys. What's below? I wonder what the qualities of the Fowls are. The Fowls from a distance looks a bit like an Albatross, but it also looks a bit like a D. It has the shorter, lower plane of the D7, but it has the curved back, the swept back wingtips of the top wing of the Albatross. And it has a similar tail viewed in profile as a Halberstadt, except of course when you get closer you can see a Halberstadt has a tail gun. So there's your Fouled, there's your DR1. Do you enjoy flying World War I aircraft, or do you like World War II aircraft better? World War I planes are a lot slower action, and that is cool too. Let me say this, World War I is just as good as World War II, and so until recently there was a problem that no one was flying World War One. Basically, that is basically finished now. There's 51 players on the map right now. But yeah, most people don't realise how awesome World War One air combat is. It's probably the ultimate air combat. Got a train down. So I think these guys are working their way closer to the enemy's front line. Now they're descending, they might well have seen something. They'd be on comms, they'd be working as a team, and they'd be looking for targets below. They may well have spotted something. Or they may be just going really fast to try and get across the front line without getting shot by flak. I'll try and keep up with them. Not sure what they're up to. They're going fast. They're descending. Have they got a target in mind? It's good having this winglet like this. The central wing has a hole in it so you can look through. It's really useful. I should make use of that more. It's any feature that you've got that can help you. You gotta make use of. Look at that, out of the sun. It's another DR1. I thought I saw something. Just shows how careful you got to. Yeah, I just caught a glimpse of something in the sun and I zoomed in and DR1. Maybe that's what those guys were doing. Were they trying to rendezvous with this DR1? I don't know. He's probably just a random such as myself. So we're heading east, we're heading back to our line, that's the enemy lines behind us. So we have an accumulation Central Powers aircraft right here, 1, 2, 3, and myself, number 4. It's a real flying circus. He's firing. Why is he firing? Is he testing his guns or something? If he was firing, I could only see... No, he's not firing. It's just the exhaust of his engine. There's no trace. It's hard to keep track of them. Right, we got flak, but what else we got? Nothing. I think I've lost them. There's that one there. Alright, there we go. They're not far off. There's the fouls. There's the DR1. Somehow I've lost all those guys. I keep hearing aircraft engines. There's one there. And there's no plane that I like best as such. Two planes there. All World War One planes had some pretty decent characteristics. Well, not all. Like there's probably hundreds that weren't put into production. But in terms of the main aircraft, they're all from the beginning or the end of the war. They're all pretty kind of exotic and amazing. Yeah, what did you have? The Eindeck, I think it's the E3, Fokker E3 Eindecker. It was a monoplane. Didn't have ailerons, it had wing warping and two guns firing through the propeller. That was an early warplane. When that hit the scene, it was extremely competitive. You had the Vickers gun bus. I think it's an Airco DH2 or DH3 or something, colloquially known as Vickers gun bus. Had a pusher propeller and like a boom tail, sort of like a P-38 light, and a cockpit with no propeller or engine in front of it, and just a gun or two facing forward. That was a pretty effective plane. I think some aces cut their teeth on that, like I think Albert Ball flew that plane. I'm going to break off from those guys. They're not effective. They're just cruising around, having a joy flight. Low search, that might be the way to go. With this altitude that I have, I can do a few things. There's a plane. There's two planes. That's probably... Let's just check it out here. Could it be them? Because they were way up high, weren't they? They were way up high, going off for a nice joy flight. And what do we got here? One of them's coming right out. That's a spat, I think. What's the other one? I don't... Let's go. Let's... Could have two spats on our hands. The trick is to keep track of both of them. That is not a Central Powers aircraft, whatever it is. Bristol F2. Dolphin. Ah, you bloody idiot. That's the end of my death 3. Oh no, I can bail potentially. Yes. Haha. I didn't get shot down. I got crashed into by a camel or something. I'm still alive. Yeah, those guys cruising around at high altitude, I think that adds further fuel to my disdain for high flying in on this map um, in this game in Flying Circus. Those guys were having a nice leisurely cruise around at the cloud base, and they didn't see nothing. I dived, and literally as soon as I dived, I got involved in a dogfight with a Bristol F2 and a Dolphin, and something else and something else. Fuel check. Yeah, it's probably about to. I don't think I was about to run out of fuel. I was getting low on fuel. Oh yeah, it's great. Aiming at the wings? Nah, aiming at the engine and the pilot. Engine and pilot. Engine and pilot. Always got to be trying to aim at the engine and pilot. So according to this, I have a death, even though I survived. Oh, okay, so maybe captured. That sucks. I wanted like 0 deaths and 3 kills, according to that. 2 medium, 1 light, so maybe 2 F2s and something else. I think a Dolphin might be classed as a medium because it's kind of a heavy plane. If you just joined us, this is what I'm flying. It's a Fokker DR1 triplane. I think it has a 110 horsepower Gnome Roan rotary engine, produces a lot of torque, and 2 machine guns. And it's pretty decent fighter plane. And it's got the red paint. I have a few optional bullet counters and a collimator, which is the gun sight. That's a nighttime collimator. That's the one I've been using. It seems to work pretty. I just remembered what I was going to say. It's got 110 horsepower Gnome. There's a halberstat. And the top speed is 165 kilometers an hour, and that's the airspeed indicator there. So when it gets just above the 16 towards the 18, that's your top speed. Yeah, what do we got up there? What is that? I think it's a... I was afraid the halberstrat had tipped over, but it's flak. Empty flak. Nothing. Alright, let's go get some action. Action! So that's Cappy, that airfield there, in that V shape, that's called Cappy. When I land this plane, because I intend to land, when I finish my combat sortie, I'm going to turn the engine off as I'm gliding in. When I know I'm in gliding range, but not more than, I'll turn the engine off. Because I think the engine, even at idle, when you're gliding into land, provides enough thrust to make you go much further than you otherwise would. Even if it's putting some laminar flow over the wing from the prop. So my big struggle has been to keep focused. Obviously, occasionally I'm glancing at the but I really don't like getting jumped is the thing. So a SPAD could come out of nowhere. That's an albatross. I'm finding the Bristol F2 turns surprisingly well. It's almost like you can't out-turn it in this plane unless you do your special trick turn. So there's 22 enemies on the map somewhere. Maybe they're all hiding back at their airfield having a cup of tea and some scone. There we go, someone shooting there. Pretty far away and much higher. Which direction are they going? 4 aircraft. That's an F2. I think there's 2 F2s being intercepted. F2 right there, unless he turns though, because he's faster than me. Four aircraft. He's getting closer, is he? He's still going that way. I don't want to take on another F2 so much. He's miles away. I'm going to go for these ones. Probably a better chance of combat over here. Also, now that I've turned, that F2 might see it and then decide to turn as well, in which case I could double back on. One SE5 versus a lot of planes there. Where did that F2 get? So I've got two halberstats with me. They're usually bombers, so it'll be interesting to see what they... If they are bombers, I'll escort. Actually, it's pretty easy to tell what their mission is. I suppose they could be recon, but I don't know how recon works, but I don't think so. You can tell if they're bombers because they're carrying bombs. Everything's external. Let's get a closer look. They're definitely going into enemy territory. They're probably going to hit the river. The river contains a number of targets. A barge parked at a city along the river, and a bridge, and some other things. Yeah, he's got a bomb or two. He's got 3 bombs. Alright, very good, very good. I'll escort these. Nothing better to do. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, he's bombed up and ready to go. So is he. He's got at least 2. I think he's got 3. The max they carry is 350 kilo. It's a pretty good combo. So it says we got 21 enemies on the maps. Yeah, he's got his 3. Alright, confirmed they've both got 3. Gotta watch out around here, there's so much flak everywhere. Well, usually there. I wonder if I got credited for shooting down that SE because I flamed it. I got it on fire. But others joined in at the last minute, so who knows, right? And someone might have shot it before as well. It says I've got 5 kills. It's pretty good. That makes me an ace. So if I lose these guys, it's pretty easy to know where they are because they're going along the route. I don't know where the enemy are. It's pretty crazy that they're just... I seriously think they're back at the aerodrome sipping a cup of Devonshire tea and eating scones with cream and jam because I haven't seen the damn thing from them. They should be out in full. I've been flying up and down the front at all altitudes for a long time. There's some flak. If you guys check my website, froggyfrog9000.com, I've written an article and made a video describing a multiplayer map prototype. I'm not going to start my own server, but if anyone else wants to take inspiration from the ideas that I'm putting forward, feel free. That's what my article was intended to influence, to get essentially like too long didn't read. I want smaller distances between targets and airfields, so that you can have a more concentrated amount of aircraft on a map. And the reason for that is it would solve the problem of not being able to find comp. It would solve the problem. So those 20 players that are my opponents, they're out there somewhere. But they could be like close to, I don't know, close to 100 kilometers away from me. These guys must be getting close to their first target. I think they're heading towards it now. I think it's a AAA or a barge. Yeah, there's the barge there. They're going for the barge. Central Powers, War Stress Level 1. Not quite at zombie apocalypse. They both died. So the barge is on fire already. I think they're going after the AAA that's just north of it, just west of it. I shall provide some kind of top cover. Whoa, look at that flak. Nasty. Do we have an aerodrome? Villas Bretonos around here somewhere. There's Villas Bretano. See their vehicle parked there. Where's all the opposition? I'm going to get chewed up by this flak if I don't watch. And where's the other guy? Target barge 1 destroyed. They must be over at the barge. I see one of them. No. There's one. One of them seems to have no bombs, the other one seems to have one. Shit, I almost bought the farm there. That was so close to failure, bloody hell. At least I've got a fight now. What do we get? SE5. Being chased by 2 halberstats and a DR1. He's going to try and, if he's good, he's going to try and outclimb us and boom and zoom. There's another. It's an F. Oh shit! Ah man, sorry, that was my. Well, it wasn't really. I could hear an engine coming at me, and I thought it was the SE5 coming back, like to boom zoom me since I'd turned around. Shit! Damn it! That's 2 collisions. Ah man. Oh, that sucks. That sucks so bad. I need a coffee. Shit! I heard the engine and I thought shit, so I turned suddenly. I think the takeaway point for this is, especially around me, because I'll make abrupt movements at any time, is like in flying circus, is to keep distance. Don't fly too close together. Because in flying circus, even more so compared to World War II, you can, because the planes are slower and more maneuverable, you can get closer together. And you better believe if I hear an engine coming up on me, I'm going to brake left or right. Unfortunately, it was the halberstam. Guys, take a couple of minute break. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. So that's a very telling thing. So both of my like fails have been collision. It didn't happen before though, flying the DR1, but today 2 collisions. If you've just joined us, this is what we're flying. It's the Fokker DR1 triplane. It's the famous plane of the Red Baron, or infamous. Red Baron got most of his kills flying an Albatross, I believe, and probably a Fowls, but this is the one he's known for, the very distinctive plane. The British company Sopwith also made a triplane. I think they made it before Fokker made the DR1. But the Sopwith triplane is not really well known, but the Fokker DR1 is. Pretty cool plane. Wish I had one in real life. A full size 160 horsepower gnome roan. No, sorry, 110 horsepower rotary gnome roan. 165 kilometers an hour max speed. Turns very well in one direction, not so well in the other. And pretty radical plane. 50 litres of just going to have a quick check of the comment. Are there float planes in this game you can fly? Nah, there's not. Yeah, Snoopy is in some way related to World War One for some reason. Much more brutal and as unforgiving as any other flight simulator. Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, the real air combat in World War One was pretty unrelenting and hardcore. Like in the final months of the Red Baron's life, if you were to stand next to him, imagine you're standing next to the Red Baron, and he takes off his hat, and you can see his head. What would you see? What would you see? You would see a hole in his head, down to his brain. He had a hole in his head. He literally had a hole in his head. He was flying with a really serious head wound. So yeah, it was extremely brutal yoke or keyboard? Keyboard and joystick. Or yoke if you. I want to upgrade it at some point soon. I've got a Logitech Extreme 3D Pro that I bought back in 2016. I should really get something better. It does the job though, I think. Ace in a day? Yeah, kinda. Going to get this one? Cool. Yeah, you should. Factory target 1 destroyed. A couple of planes up there, DR1 and some. Yeah, my preference with multiplayer battle scenario design, I keep saying map design, but then people that don't know, that are not hip to the lingo and the vernacular, think that I'm talking about something else. So I shouldn't. I mean, map is kind of an appropriate word for it, but people get confused when you say the map needs to be smaller. People that aren't hip to the lingo and to the vernacular think that you're talking about the actual map, but you're not. You're talking about the placement of the airfields and the targets on the map. So when you say the map needs to be smaller, in the lingo of multiplayer map design, that means that the placement on the map of the targets and the airfields needs to be closer together, which it does. Most definitely does. Enemy. Ah, those two deaths, so annoying, both by collision. And one of them wasn't a death, it was a bail. But probably over, it said over enemy territory. It said killed or captured. Getting darker, isn't it? Sun is the sun. I think the sun's going down. Because I'm having a great deal of trouble finding the enemy, I'm going to just keep flying and flying and flying until I literally get to their airfield. I think those albatross, two of them up there. Battle area, yeah, that's a good terminology. I think that multiplayer is in its infancy. I remember checking out multiplayer probably for the first time. I remember the experience back in, it would have been 2017. And I flew around in it for a bit. I had some preconceived notions of it too, which were somewhat true and somewhat not true. My preconceived notion was that you'd see planes stuttering all over the place, or like warping and stuff, and that it wouldn't look very realistic, and that would detract from the immersion. that is mostly not an issue at all. I was also thinking ping might be an issue, but it wasn't. But by far the number one thing that I noticed was that it was empty. Like, even if there were players on there, I had no idea where they were. And so currently it's not so much the company that makes the games, that makes the multiplayer servers. Multiplayer servers are made by you and me. Literally you and me. This server that we're flying on right now is made by you and me. It's made by guys and gals just like you and me. And so then the placement of airfields and targets is made by you and me. There's people like you and me, no different. I've made plenty of missions with the mission editor for my cinematic movies, but I haven't made one for multiplayer. But I've used the mission editor a lot, and you use the mission editor to make multiplayer, colloquially speaking, maps, battle area, like this one. I swear I can hear an engine. I look around, I can't see. What am I using for rudder? You just use the Logitech joystick. You like tilt it to the left and the right, and it yaws the aircraft, operates the. Getting darker and darker. So yeah, like another thing is that so there's single player and there's multiplayer, and one is not better than the other. Single player is really fantastic, and it's evolving, but it's mostly well set up, whereas multiplayer, to me it seems like it's in its infancy, and it has huge potential, massive potential, and I feel like that it hasn't yet really gone very far towards fulfilling its huge potential. And part of that is just knowing how to make a map, knowing how to make a battle area, I should say. And the other part of it is internet speed. As higher internet speed around the world becomes ubiquitous, as it is becoming, that's going to help. That is an airfield right there. It's probably Villas Bretonneux. Let's go and have a look. I can see the artillery pit. I can see the windsock and the support vehicle. I may as well shoot up their artillery. Just have to remember to cut my engine as I'm going in, or else the torque will stop the aim from being accurate. That is Villas Bretonneux. I'm going to shoot it up. They should have an MG down there, which I should probably shoot up first. Didn't get him. Something tells me my engine's going to fail. Tons of enemy players on the map. They're like ghosts. Pilot seriously in. Yeah, power settings 100% power most of the time with this. So just to give you an idea, I took off at Cappy. I flew all the way out to Villas Bretonneux without encountering anyone except for two high-flying albatrosses here, and shot up the AI and then was shot down by the AI gun. It says that the airfields back here are under attack. Usually that's not very reliable. I may as well take off. There's 11 players at Cappy though. I think a good rule of thumb for any server is that all airfields should be no more than 4 minutes flying from the combat zone. Even if you don't get shot down, you still then have to return to your airfield. If you do 5 flights like that, that's 4 minutes out, 4 minutes back. Trying to do maths here. 5 flights times 4 minutes out is 5 fours are 20. 20 minutes of flying transit time to get out and 20 back. So that's 40 minutes in total of transit time between the airfield and the area of action, not including all the other flying time and potentially combat time. So that's 40 minutes of transit time, and that's with a 4-minute distance between the furthest airfield and the area of action. So that's why I say 4 minutes. You just accumulate so much transit time over the course of a 2 or 3 hour period that it just gets tedious. And that's with my suggested 4 minutes max. Some aerodrome distances on some maps are something like 10 minutes away from the front. Most of them are pretty good. They're like, like 3, 4, 5 minutes kind of thing, and you're in the zone of action, like over the top of one of your targets, or a bit further on one of the enemy's targets. Obviously, the bigger you make a map, I should stop saying map because I know people that don't get it are going to get confused. The bigger you make a combat zone, the lower the probability of combat. The smaller you make a combat zone, the higher the probability of combat. If your players are not getting much combat, that tends to indicate that the combat zone is too big. Needs to be shrunken, which means putting the aerodromes closer together, putting all the targets close together, etc., etc. Another innovation that can come into multiplayer battle area design is the inclusion of tanks. So far, most of the big servers don't include tanks, and I really think that there should be some kind of front line that's full of tanks, that you get an opportunity to drive tanks around. And again, tanks not 20 kilometres apart, but more like about 2.5 kilometres apart, and preferably fighting in and around big cities, so they have lots of cover from the air and also covered by a lot of flak. If you guys are wondering more tangibly what I'm talking about, have a look at my article with my video that I made on it on my website, and that's where I cover that topic. I think most of the aircraft that I've seen during this whole flight, during this whole stream, have been on the same side as me, and I think that's the same, just DR1 there. And what have we got there? Probably that Fowles Albatross. 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 And here's another important concept that I really hope multiplayer server operators embrace going forward, either based on my idea or if they just discover it themselves at some point. It doesn't matter, but it just needs to be implemented. If you look at the player saturation on a multiplayer server over time, over the course of say a week, like if you look at it as a graph, you can see that there are peak times and then there are lull times and there's average time. And they're to do with time zones. Like right now on this server is a peak time because it's the Thursday fly-in. So that's why you've got an unusually high amount of players, like 40, 50, 60 players. This is a peak time. So graphically represented, that's like a ridge, like a mountaintop in a graph. There are other times when, and this is consistent throughout the year, like you look at every week, it's much the same shape of the graph. You can see times when there's just no players at all on the map. So how should you respond to that? If anything, given that principle that the more players are on the map, the bigger the map, the less chance of combat. The smaller, I keep saying that, the smaller the combat area, the more probability of combat. Same with players. If you have 500 players on a map, in a battle area, there's a greater probability of combat. If you have 2 players on a battle zone, you got much less probability of combat. So if you're in one of those lull times on that graphical representation of a server's saturation over the week, it stands to reason that the battle area during those times should be a map that should be a battle area, a mission that is commensurately smaller. Does that make sense? You're following it? Makes sense to me. I think it should be implemented. I hope I articulated it well enough. Reason why I say that is some people are going to complain that if the battle area gets made smaller, it'll turn it into arcade where there's constant, too much combat basically. And a sufficient solution to that is make a bunch of different missions, some of them with more spread out combat areas for the peak times in servers, and the majority of them when the servers are dead quiet with smaller combat areas. All of these ideas have not been implemented yet, and they need to across servers, and I hope that they get implemented in the years to come. It's just common sense, but no one's done it yet. First engine damaged. What the devil? I don't know why the engine stopped. It seemed to be responding to those barrel rolls, but usually that's not an issue. One thing I don't like doing in this plane is loops. Let's try a loop without the engine power. Might be better. Pretty mediocre. Needed more speed though. Makes total sense. Yeah, total. If nothing else, my daily live streams, like if it's not me saying it, just anyone that sees my daily live streams will see, in effect, what I'm talking about. I'm going to drown, I think. And there's a lot of counter arguments that don't hold up. Like some people will say, "Oh, well, just go to a target and just focus on the target, and you'll get some combat." But I've proven through my live streams that sometimes I've gone to a target, even one that had a radar message saying there was an enemy aircraft in that area, hovered around that target for like 35 minutes and no action. So combat areas needs, generally speaking, be more condensed to increase the probability of combat, particularly during lull periods. The map must be nearly finished, I think. I don't know if it's frozen or if it could well be the end of the session. But I think it might well have frozen. Guys, this is probably a good point to end the stream, I think. I did want to keep going for another half an hour, but maybe. Alright, it was fun spending time with you guys. And yeah, likewise, enjoy your weekends. Hopefully see some of you for the next stream, whenever that's going to be. Usual stuff, like, share, subscribe, support on Patreon, join the channel on YouTube as a member. It's $5.99 a month, free to cancel anytime. Really helps the channel and my effort. Also check out my website, it's froggyfrog9000.com. Thanks very much, and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.